The damage boomers have created is irreparable. Let's jump into these clips.
Okay, let's talk about millennials because they get more flack than almost any other generation, and it's completely undeserved. Not because they're perfect, but because most people don't understand the position millennials were born into. Millennials aren't the problem. They are the acceleration generation, and acceleration always looks chaotic from the outside. Every generation inherits the unresolved patterns of the generations before them. The silent generation created the template of emotional suppression and obedience. Boomers hardened it with stability, endurance, and institutional trust. Gen X started to crack the shell, but they didn't break it. They're the bridge. They saw the walls closing in, but they didn't have the numbers or the cultural authority to dismantle anything. Millennials are the first generation who had to live fully inside the collapse of the old structures while simultaneously being responsible for building the new ones. This is an almost impossible assignment. They were raised to follow the rules of a world that was already dying.
All right, I'm going to pause it here. Now, go to college and all that. You're right. I went to college. I got a nursing degree. And I worked as a travel nurse, and the healthcare system sucked, so I left. And I can see, there's blame going around, I think, just because people want to have someone to blame on one end. Everybody always wants to have someone to blame. But the other part, the reality is, life is harder now. You could, just statistically speaking, you know what I mean? Home prices cost way more than they did 30 years ago when the boomers had access to it, so I could see that train of thought there, for sure. Income sucks. It's hard to make money these days. 100K back in when I was starting high school in the 2000s, man, like 100K, you were doing it, man. You were rich. If you were going to make 100K, you were going to be successful. And now, how many of you in the comments, put it in the comments if you make 100K. If you make 100K and tell me how it feels. Does it feel like you're successful?
I don't think we give enough credit to the boomers, man. Like, it's impressive how quickly they destroyed the world. They inherited the greatest economy for the working class in, quite possibly, the entirety of human history, and they fucked it up in a few decades. I mean, bravo, you fucking idiots, bravo. Oh, and the climate crisis, too.
Like this, I gotta pause here real quick. Like, the blame is cool, dude, but it's like, you gotta remember, the boomers are average people just like us. They're not, I really I have a hard time believing that they are the ones that fucked it up and did all of these things. They're not the ones that took action like the majority of people. It's the people in power, isn't it?
Oh my god, only a century, not even half a century, and we're completely fucked, dude. And here's the kicker. By 2040, almost all of them will be dead. And guess what? By 2040, that's when shit starts to get fucking real. Like, it's genuinely unbelievable. Like, holy fucking shit, they really just did that, man.
It's true, man. And by the time 2040 comes and people that are in their 30s now, dude, nobody has savings anymore. There's no pensions. Most people don't have 401ks or Roths or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen.
Behind every no contact story, there's usually a boomer parent saying, I have no idea why my kid won't talk to me, and an adult child who's completely exhausted from trying to explain it. Boomers are allergic to accountability. They act like grandparent toddlers, pouting, lying, manipulating, and demanding attention the second they don't get their way. They think they're the star of everyone's story, but they've ruined their own families by refusing to learn basic communication, empathy, or conflict resolution skills. We've had to be the grown-ups, explaining to our parents how to be decent humans, and that's not our job. Nobody wants to go no contact with their parents. But when the rumors get back to you that they have no idea what they did, and people are looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Take that as confirmation that you made the right choice. My mother was willing to lose me rather than owning her truth and seeking help.
Wild. Not talking to your parents, man. Family's all we got. I hope your relationships aren't shitty like hers is.
College, work hard, buy a house, trust the system. By the time they reached adulthood, every single one of those structures had already failed them. Not metaphorically, literally. So millennials learned early that the maps were wrong, that the systems didn't keep their promises, that endurance wasn't going to save them. Adaptation would. This is why millennials look inconsistent to older generations. It's not inconsistency, it's acceleration. They are updating themselves at the same speed the world is shifting. But there's something else that doesn't get named enough. Millennials carry grief. Massive, quiet, unspoken grief. The grief of a promised future that never materialized. The grief of doing everything right and still falling through the cracks.
That's true, man. I mean, I fell through the cracks as a young kid, and everyone still kept saying go to college, it's going to help you and all that, and it didn't, man. The other thing is we've lived through like so many once in a lifetime events, right? Like 9/11 and financial crisis, COVID, the upcoming financial crisis, depression. Like it's like every couple years things just keep getting worse, and people don't understand why people aren't having kids. Like who wants to have kids? Like in this day and age, it makes sense. Like having kids is awesome because you can have a family, but financially speaking, dude, you got to think of it that way. Everything's numbers now. I mean, everything is built. The whole system is just built to take and take, right? Everything's a subscription. You don't own anything. For example, actually, a buddy of mine, very good friend, he had all his emails and accounts hacked in some kind of data breach, but they actually hacked his. Like, I'm sure you get like updates or like an email that says you've been in a data breach. Well, he actually got hacked. And one of the things he lost that he couldn't get back was his like Microsoft Xbox account. Big gamer, this kid. And guess what? All of his games are digital. He doesn't have the discs, and he basically lost $1,200 worth of games. You don't own anything anymore.
The grief of being blamed for systemic failures they didn't create. The grief of inheriting institutions that were already collapsing. The grief of being the first generation who had to accept that stability was fiction. The grief of having to emotionally reparent themselves because no one taught them how to navigate a world this unstable. And they're not on the other side of that grief. They are in the thick of it right now. Most millennials are between about 29-30 to 44. This is supposed to be the settled stage of life, the building years, the stability years, the payoff years.
And I don't feel settled in shit, man. Honestly, I'm 38 years old. I'm making more money than I ever have, which is cool, but I don't feel settled in anything. Like literally everything is still up in the area because everything's not owned. Everything's rented. I would like to settle and get a house and property, but I can't afford it. Health insurance got super expensive. By the way, that's what I do. If you want a free consultation or just some free quotes, go to the website healthnerd.net. Nobody's going to call you or anything like that unless you schedule one. Save a bunch of money on PPOs. Anyway.
Instead, this is a decade where they're discovering in real time that almost nothing they were promised has transpired in the way it was supposed to. They were handed the old script in one ear, told to follow it, and then shoved into a reality that operates by completely different rules. And while they're processing that collapse, many of them are also raising families or starting families with no real cultural blueprint for how to parent through instability. Millennials are metabolizing more structural change than any generation before them, and somehow they're still absorbing the majority of the criticism.
And the kids we're having, like, dude, these kids are like they're in a tough spot. They're in a real tough spot, and I mean it just with everything we're discussing, but even more so, like COVID messed these kids up, man. I have clients all the time that have kids, and they're like. They don't talk to people. The kids don't know how to talk. They'll be 25, 28 years old, still living at home. Never had like a girlfriend, boyfriend. Just stay at home on their phone all the time. I mean, tell me if that's something you've heard of.
It's simply not fair. And here's the irony. Despite all of this, millennials built things. They built entire industries. They normalized therapy and emotional literacy. They challenged harmful traditions. They broke generational silence around mental health, trauma, identity, work culture, and systemic corruption. They forced institutions to confront their own failures. Millennials didn't break anything. They were simply the first generation whose awareness outpaced the systems they inherited, and that's why they were punished for it. When a field destabilizes, the generation who feels it first gets treated like the problem when they're actually the early warning system. Acceleration doesn't look graceful. It looks like questioning, pivoting, experimenting, and refusing to pretend. It looks like telling the truth even when the truth is uncomfortable. Millennials were never meant to be the golden children. They were the transition team, and transitions are messy because they expose everything that isn't working. If you look at millennials through that lens, they're not chaotic. They're coherent to the era they were born into. They're coherent to change. They're coherent to the truth that the old world was already collapsing. Millennials are not the problem. They're the ones who felt the collapse first and moved anyway.
Yeah. Well, look at that, the Goonies. Yeah, we didn't have a choice. Feel like you had a choice? I mean, put it in the comments. Like, if you're in the boomer generation, do you feel like the blame pointed at you was kind of the right thing? Is it accurate in your opinion? Do millennials have it harder? That's another thing. And then anybody that's in the millennial age or younger, if you're watching this, tell me, like, do you have a house? Do you think you're gonna own a house? Do you think you're gonna reach your dreams? Do you think making $100K a year is really a lot of money? Throw it down. We'll have more fun on the next one.